Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. In a volatile turn of events, escalating strikes between Iran and Israel are sending shockwaves that may reach India's economy. As the spectre of increased oil prices looms, disruptions in supply chains could become a reality. The fragile calm in the Middle East has collapsed once again as Iran and Israel have resumed an exchange of strikes, threatening to unravel the ceasefire that had held for over 100 days. Now, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis fired missiles towards Israel, prompting retaliatory attacks. Israel also launched strikes on Iranian positions, claiming it was responding to missile threats. Diplomatic efforts, including US appeals for restraint, have so far failed to contain the escalation. India's economic growth, which had been resilient at 7.7% in FY26 and recorded a robust 7.8% in the final quarter, now faces new headwinds from external shocks and domestic pressures. Rising oil prices and disrupted supply chains are already feeding into higher input costs. So the big question that arises is, how does it affect our energy and oil security, and what can we do about it? To discuss this further, joining us on this broadcast are Malika Pandey, Foreign Affairs expert, Major General Dhruv Katoch, Defense expert, and Mr. Ajay Dua, Senior Economist. Thank you so much to all of you for taking out your time and for speaking to NewsX. Let's start off this discussion with Mr. Dua so as to get a perspective on the economic front, because that's what we are discussing here. Mr. Dua, I want to understand, over the past 3 months, India has quietly been mitigating, the Indian government has been mitigating the effects of this war. But slowly and steadily, that's all that the government can do. We are seeing a rise in fuel prices. We are seeing a rise across, prices of items as well. So even inflation can see a rise going forward. I want to understand, Mr. Dua, given that this war now has escalated, do you believe we are looking at an economic situation that the country and the world will have to face for a longer duration, not just this year or the next, but for a longer duration, sir?
Shivani, thank you for having me in this discussion. I fully share your concern that the prolonging of the war in the Middle East is not good for all the countries which are dependent upon crude oil, gas, and gas which passes through the Gulf region. And that includes India. Particularly for us, it's not a very good phenomenon, because unlike China, unlike certain Japan, Korea, 80 to 90% of our oil, we are oil dependent. 50 to 60% is also imported by us. And given the geography, we were dependent, we were buying a lot of it, of what our needs are from adjoining nations, starting from Iran, Iraq, and then the further western and the northern regions. So we stand affected considerably. Yes, so far, the lack of the impact was on the availability, and availability reflecting itself in the price actually incurred, and the price, the more open market price, which goes up, fearing further shortages. The government of India, from its own coffers, bore a lot of it. Its oil marketing companies, which are, though listed, largely owned by consumers quite a bit, but there is a limit. Okay, if we buy so much of it from outside, and that the supply and the price is getting affected, the governments and their agencies can only do up to a particular point. So we have seen in the last 1 month, government gradually allowing the oil companies to increase their price. The share of the oil marketing companies in the total scheme of distribution or retailing of oil in India is also humongous, as much as 90% in certain states, almost 100%. Overall, about 90%. So, there is going to be certainly an impact. Government has, as you would recall, had limited, earlier put a restraint on sale of natural gas for industrial consumers. That's how places in which were consuming oil as gas as a feedstock, particularly the tile makers in Gujarat, etc. Their supply was cut off, and the prices of tiles went up. Same thing now. I expect the round two price increases, which are not necessarily dependent upon price one, the first stage of price increase, for that's somewhat subsidized and subsidized for certain consumers, will start increasing. And what are the second phase for round two prices? Fertilizers are going in the same direction of their availability, and prices are going up. That means the farmers will get it at a more expensive rate. Farmers get it at higher rates, the food prices go up. Food prices go up, and then they built a whole lot of universe of inflation around them. So I do fear that going forward, you are going to be feeling the pinch much more. You means we, all of us, much more than we have felt so far.
Some very valid points raised by you. Mr. Dua, I also want to rope in General Katorch into this discussion. General Katorch, I want to understand, we saw the Strait of Hormuz causing such an economic havoc across the world when it was blockaded, when Iran was, holding a chokehold on it. Now the question, after these fresh hostilities, the question of Bab al-Mandeb also comes, where the Houthis have, announced that they will stop all Israeli vessels, all vessels that they consider to be enemy vessels, those will be stopped as well. So these are this is a double choke point that we are seeing, sir, that is going to affect the global supply chain. India also has a lot riding on the Red Sea route and, the Strait of Hormuz. Now we are looking at alternatives, obviously, through the Cape of Good Hope, but that's fuel, that's costing us more fuel, that's costing us more time, and that's obviously going to rise the prices of the products that are being transported even further. So I want to understand, General Katorch, from your understanding, with these two choke points, how does India go forward now? We are trying to look for alternatives, but these seem to be strategic routes. There need to be, some way to reopen these.
Thank you, Shivani. Shivani, India's position is such that there isn't very much we can do as far as the progress of the war or stopping that war is concerned. But I think over the past few months, what the government has done is they have taken a great deal of steps to diversify their sources of procurement. So ultimately, there are two issues involved. One is the availability of petroleum products. I do not think that there will be a very serious problem as regards availability. Our supply chains will continue. But the more important aspect is the cost. Now, that cost is something which I don't think the government or anybody else is in a position to do anything about. Mr. Dua also spoke about farmers and fertilizers. As of now, the fertilizer price hasn't increased, but the entire amount which has, the input costs which have gone up, the government is footing the bill. And I do not know how long such a thing is feasible or sustainable. So a time will come when the bill will have to be passed on, at least in part, to the farmers, and then there will be cascading costs. The Red Sea route, yes, the Bab al-Mandeb, if it gets blocked, then the only other alternative is to come by the Cape route, and that is really where the trade from Europe comes. There will be a marginal increase in cost as far as that is concerned, because that is of many other goods besides petroleum which pass through that route. But the criticality still remains the Strait of Hormuz, and if the longer that stays closed, the bigger the problem will be. But there is another problem which I would like to bring about now. As the hostilities have started once again, I think what we need to be really concerned about is if this hostility permeates onto the energy fields. Now, if Iran is attacked and their energy sources are hit, especially in Kharb Island, I have a sneaking suspicion that Iran will retaliate on the Saudi oil fields at Aramco and on the other oil infrastructure in the Gulf. Now, that will create a shortage. And that shortage is something which is going to put the prices spiraling totally out of control. And there will be in India, the second problem which will come up, besides spiraling problems, the question will be of availability. So I think at the best what we can do now diplomatically is to see that the war doesn't escalate further and continue to diversify our sources of supply, which we have already started from Venezuela, from Russia and other places. Shivani.
Right, General. When we're talking about, our supplies and our storage, I want to rope in Malika Pandey here. Malika Pandey, I want to understand India, since the start of this year, has been making sure that it diversifies its energy basket. We are also looking at increasing our strategic reserves that matter a lot, because that was making headlines that we have 74 days of reserves or only 9 days of reserves. There was a lot of controversy regarding this. So the Indian government has been making sure that they strengthen that. We have roped in UAE to help strengthen our strategic reserves. We are looking at the Norwegian nations for cleaner, greener energy that do not depend on fuel supply. But as of now, because these deals will take some time to in fact materialize, I want to understand from your perspective, how well is India planning ahead in terms of its own energy securities, because this is a war which is not seeing an end.
Absolutely. Good evening, Shivani. It's been 101 days till the war now, and I've had the opportunity to discuss this with you since the very beginning. And how things have unfolded now, Shivani, we've clearly seen, and it is pretty clear by now that India is not insulated by the consequences of the missiles in Middle East. So we've not, our kitchen, our wallets are definitely hit. Last year we saw India was the 4th largest economy. Now India last month has slipped to being the 6th largest economy. Our rupee is badly hit. India's equity market is worst out of all the global markets. So Shivani, yes, there have been huge consequences, and a lot of people, a lot of experts are comparing this to 1991 when Iraq and Kuwait were at war. But definitely not, it's not the similar situation. Our forex is much stronger. We have diversified our energy, and definitely we are at the receiving end of a lot of things despite not being active in the battlefield. But now what is happening, because India imports around 85% of the total oil is imported from outside. So energy security largely, Shivani, what we have seen is India is diversifying. We are buying 40% of our oil from Russia. Our Russian partnership has increased, and because of the tariffs exemption as well, we are purchasing huge amount of oil from Russia. Now we are also exploring it with the European Union as well. Then we are importing from Venezuela as well. So we are seeing a lot of energy diversification is taking place. But rightly pointed out by General Katoch when he says that even though we are diversifying, even though we are taking these measures, but how long can our government take it? And we are seeing our Prime Minister has made an appeal to everyone to stay at home, to carpool, to not go abroad, because these are very essential commodities for the forex exchange. Why our chemical fertilizers haven't been hit yet? Because the government is taking the brunt. The government is bearing the brunt. But till when? So Shivani, it's like in days to come, things will unfold. We are already seeing that 4th time in a row, the energy prices have increased. We are seeing that today the oil prices have increased up to 4% all over the world, but India is set to increase the oil prices by 8%. So Shivani, in the days to come, if things do not settle, it's going to be tough times for India.
Dr. Dua, then I want to understand from you, what's next for India? How long can the government sustain this? Because we have the oil marketing companies also bearing the brunt, the government is bearing the brunt, and slowly and steadily the common man is also feeling the pinch. I want to understand what's next for India. How can we maintain our growth? Because as compared to others, fortunately we've managed to keep our growth rate at a stable level. We've managed to isolate ourselves from the consequences and the implications of this war. But what next, Mr. Dua?
I think we'll need to pay much greater heed to what the Prime Minister called out, saying austerity is the answer. Prime Minister, when he made that appeal, he had in mind saying, look, I have done to what was possible. What the government of India could do, it has deep pockets, certainly, but not bottomless pockets. We have done enough. Now it is for the citizens to cooperate and reduce, what has he asked for? Reduce the demand for it. If you could manage during the COVID without too much of it, there was an adverse effect, no doubt. GDP fell by about 22%, if you will recall, Shivani, during the very first year. But the question is, if the government does not pass on the cost, mere appeals will have limited kind of results. So I'm of the point that yes, the government can subsidize certain sections who are vulnerable, whose body and soul have to be kept together, but others should start paying what is the real market price and then see what happens. Because you cannot take away the money from healthcare, you cannot take away the money from education and other priorities within the country. This is what we've been doing. Yes, we can borrow more because on the strength of our economy, but the borrowings are returnable. And there is a price interest which you will be paying for all that. So I'm of the opinion, up to a point, what the government could do, it is done. We as citizens must wake up and start paying attention to all that the society needs, and at the same time be ready to cough up more and hope for the best, that the Middle East war ends soon. 100 days nobody had expected. I don't think even the people who initiated the war, United States and Israel, could have ever expected that they will be involved in a conflict in the Middle East, a full-fledged conflict to such an extent. And what they say, the incidental attacks or consequential, the adverse impacts are not being borne but just by Israel, US or Iran, but the whole of the Gulf economy, and some of them physically being hit, others paying much more for their own for the products they import, and getting much less for the petrol or the oil which they produce. Right. And the rest of the world is paying by way of cost and availability. So ending of the war can be our everybody's joint fervent prayer that sense prevails and
absolutely.
The war
But we've not seen the end of the war over the past 100 days. And General Katoch, last word from you on this, because this is something that we have witnessed in other wars as well. The Russia-Ukraine war continues. We are seeing the Iran-US-Israel war also continue for a long duration. Do you believe that we need to now look at measures that think that this is the new normal, that the economy needs to take into consideration in an economy like ours, which is growing?
You see, we will have to consider geopolitical changes and flux which take place. But there is a difference between the Russia-Ukraine war and the present war which is being fought. You see, the Russia-Ukraine war is being fought over land. There are armies which are facing each other. Here we don't have armies facing each other. It's a missile war. Right. This war has to end. Neither side has the capacity to last out for 4 years or 5 years. My sense of it is it'll be ending very shortly. Perhaps this month, perhaps next month. It cannot go beyond that because
Okay.
for the two sides which are actually fighting this war, you cannot continue with a high intensity missile war, where the people who are fighting are separated by 1,000 kilometers. Now that doesn't really make sense to me.
Okay, General, so 30
My vote is
seconds,
definitely going to stop
30
now.
seconds, do you believe austerity is the answer for now?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
right.
austerity is the answer. The government has done its bit, as very correctly said by Mr. Dua. It is now for the people of India to do our bit.
All right.
It is our country. We need to do our bit now.
All right. Thank you so much, Malika Pandey, General Kutorch, and Mr. Dua for your valuable perspective on this issue. We are slipping into a short commercial.